helps inform that evidence or what we know about young people and substance use. So it certainly helps the National Drug Strategy. And I know you might think that's like a dry document, maybe on the shelf somewhere, but it's not. I mean, I go to meetings a couple of times a year with the minister, goes around the table and he checks the police, he checks the Department of Children, he checks the Department of Health, Department of Education, and he says, have you done your actions under the National Drug Strategy? And it's literally like being in school. If you haven't done your bit, you're shown up. So the National Drug Strategy is actually very much a living document, and I've seen our politicians checking to make sure that people are actually doing what they're supposed to do. I'm also aware, because I do some work with children myself, of the Children's Department actually has a strategy on data for children and young people. And there's a section in that on the need for more information on drugs and alcohol amongst young people. So it's actually going to help the Children's Department as well. And then the National Advisory Committee on Drugs and Alcohol itself, we have 3 committees. One is on prevention and prevalence. So I think in terms of prevention and families and learning and all of that will certainly help in there. And the NACDA have also identified that we need more evidence on risks for adolescents at risk. And actually, even just what you were saying there as young people about, get the information to young people and get, through Facebook and, social media platforms. So that's really just useful. So from a personal perspective then, I was just saying, so we've got our international, we have the policy, and then personally, as I say, just reading those case studies, it's just really readable. It's sort of book you can pick up and just browse through and go, oh yeah, gosh, I didn't know that, and I can relate to that, and I'm actually thinking, like my copy of my father helps me mind my children. He's going to be 80 this June. I'm thinking, he needs to read this because actually grandparents play a big role in family as well. Because sometimes they might listen to mother, but they listen to granddad, so I can use that to my advantage. So I'm delighted to be able to launch the book. I'm actually privileged to be working with both Philip and Bobby. Philip, we're doing a bit of research together. Bobby is on the NACDA as well, and perhaps hopefully I get an opportunity to work with Anne and Katrine as well. So please join with me and let's congratulate him well.
Thank you, Catherine. Now I'd like to invite Philip James and Katrina Kern to come and speak to you about what they're to co-author this book. I suppose just to give a little context about where the idea of the book came from, and I think Catherine alluded to it when she talked about the accessibility of the book. Working in the field. Working in the field of substance misuse, there are a lot of books, but as Adam referred to in the forward of this book, they're often written in very academic language and they're not accessible for people who aren't maybe addiction specialists. And when we were all working in Yoda at the time, we would get a lot of phone calls from other professionals looking for information or looking for some ideas about where they could go to read more about adolescent substance misuse. And the books that were there, they were very academic. So we wanted to, I suppose, produce something that was accessible for everybody. So it was Phil's idea, I have to acknowledge, and he roped us all in, and we started in August 2011. We sent in a proposal, and I suppose when we were sending in the proposal, we assumed this was going to be quite difficult, that it's not that easy to write a book, and it isn't that easy to write a book, why not? But the publisher came back to us asking for sample chapters, which we hadn't written. So we very quickly wrote 2 sample chapters and sent them off to Radcliffe. And within a couple of months, they sent us back contracts to say that they liked our proposal and they were contracting us to write the book. So we had our first draft done in February 2013. and 30s. So I'm going to flash it over to Phil now.
Thanks very much for coming. And before I get to the topic of the book, I want to mention something that happened at the weekend. I was in the car with my daughter Amy, who's here, who's 7, and we're driving along, and I was saying, we don't live in Dublin. I said, on Monday night you're going to come up to Dublin, it'll be very exciting, get to see your granny and granddad who are here and all that. And she goes, Daddy, why do I have to go? I didn't write a book. Just to emphasize, I can tell you. I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of what's in the book for those of you. If you can see that this kind of flashing up on the screen, but basically we give an overview of kind of, I suppose, introduction to adolescence was this idea that's talked about a lot, which most of us kind of see as being 13 to 19, sounds around that age group. And I suppose the thing that's important about adolescence is that I suppose we're not fully grown, I suppose, until we're in at least our early 20s. And particularly, I suppose, what that means is that we might look fully grown, but our brain development is still there. Particularly parts of the brain that are to do with problem solving and making decisions and all that sort of stuff. So therefore, I suppose naturally and biologically teenagers can, I suppose, be a bit more impulsive than they might be when they're in their 20s or 30s. And that's something that is important to bear in mind when we work with adolescents. It's not the same as working with adults, it is slightly different. And so Bobby coined this term, and if he looks at the poster, he's going to get a heart attack, because when I was looking up this, Bobby came up with this idea to talk about young people being apprentice adults. They're not fully there yet, and like any apprentice, you need a bit of experience before you kind of let loose on the world. You don't just let a welder loose or a carpenter loose, you need to give them a bit of minding. And when I went looking for a picture and put up on the slide, I found this book that was written called Apprentice Adults. Bobby's going, I'm really coined that phrase. The book only came out in January, Bobby, so I think you coined the phrase before that book came out. Okay, and a little kind of idea there. Learn from the mistakes of others, because you can't make them all yourself. So the other topics then, as we said, that we covered in the book is, I'm sure brought the glasses, an overview of all the different substances used by people, by young people, particularly cannabis and alcohol. We talk about why we worry about adolescent substances, and what are the harms associated with all the different drugs, and why we particularly worry about adolescents using drugs as opposed to adults. And the short answer is, the younger someone starts to misuse drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's cannabis, the more likely they are to go on to develop problems. So even if you can just delay young people starting drug use, it actually is very, very helpful in the long run. We also talk about what are the risk factors. Why do some young people use drugs and other young people don't? That's something to bear in mind. And that brings us on to if we know what are the risk factors, we can then look at some ideas of preventing adolescent substance use. And I have a little idea to share with you here, which is this. In America, the Research Institute has come up with this idea to 40 developmental assets. It's basically a list of 40 things that might be in a young person's life that will protect them from lots of different harms, like substance use, but also mental health harms and all that sort of stuff. And some of them are listed there. I'm not going to try to read them. I'll try and read it if you want to look ahead. But there are things like not being out with nothing special to do more than 2 nights a week. It's being involved in religious activities. It's reading more than 3 hours for fun a week. Whether it's comics or whether it's football magazines, it doesn't really matter. It just has to be reading for fun. And there's a huge list: having supportive families, having supportive schools, being involved in youth clubs and Veroiga and soccer clubs and various different sports, being involved in the arts. All those things are protected. There's a nice list. If you look online, you find it 40 developmental assets. You look in the book either. There's a list of 40 of them, especially the book. Thank you. Sounds better than probably. But there's a graph there that just goes to show you, and I remember the figures go way off the top of my head. If a young person has 30 or more of these assets, they've only got a 3% chance of ending up with problem alcohol use. Whereas somebody who's got less than 10 of the assets has a 48% chance. 48% of them end up. So you can see the more that of these assets they get, the more protected they are. And it's not just for substance use, it's also for things like sexual health, various other different risks as well.
Giovanni, Ellen, and Kerry. Now I'd like to introduce Catherine Comsky. Catherine is Professor of Healthcare Statistics at TCD, and she's also the Chair of the National Advisory Committee on Drugs and Alcohol.
Thank you very much, Valerie. How do you follow young people? Because they're always so lively and wonderful and so well done. And even as an academic listening to what they're saying, the results of your own work, what you said there about young people and online, and that is just fabulous. You're right on the button. So maybe if Festus just speaks the chair of the National Advisory Committee on Drugs and Alcohol, but I'm also a parent. So, I'm speaking from that context as well. I'm honoured to be asked to launch the book. I mean, it's a great privilege for me to be in this position, not just in the ivory tower. It's great to be out, and my own work, as an academic is actually in drugs and alcohol research. So when I saw the book, I mean, I'm the professor and I felt so humbled by the book because it's such a great book. I was privileged to have a read of sort of an earlier draft, and just reading it, not just as as an academic or as the chair of the National Advisory Committee on Drugs and Alcohol, but reading it as a parent, I just felt it was really accessible. And I see that there's family here this evening, and I see, family and parents and relatives are going to buy the book. And it's a very accessible book. I mean, based on case studies, and I was reading some of the case studies, and I could identify with it. And I thought, oh yeah, my son went through that. I've got 4 children from 20, 18, 15, and 11. So I'm going through all of the challenges as a parent. So it's really great to be able to read the book and be able to relate to it from that perspective. Obviously, it is a book of quality. So it will also actually, reading it, it has an international perspective. The publishers say that this book is going to be of use to lots of different disciplines. Adolescents, anybody working with adolescents, and I just wrote down the list: social workers, health and social care professionals, youth workers, family support workers, teachers, counsellors, mental health teams, A&E staff, police, probation workers. I mean, there's something there for them all because we all want to continue learning. So it really was excellent. There's great sort of information on matters such as counselling. And I wonder who wrote that chapter. Counselling, treatment options. I wonder who wrote that. Motives for substance abuse, sexual and mental health, policy development. And actually, people say here policy development and they think, oh, policy, is it out there? But it's not actually, it's so important, and I'll speak about that in a moment. Ethical and legal considerations, like the ethics of dealing with young people, so important, and get that right, and having young people's voices heard as well. And also the book mentions the important role of family, and we're surrounded by family here today, and you can see how important that is. Just from a discipline and as an academic point of view, I thought it was really great as well that the publishers are people who are working in this area, if they're doing directed reading, you can actually get credit for their reading. So not only do you actually enjoy reading the book because it's so accessible, but you're going to get academic credit for it too. So I thought that was great. Before I declare the book officially launched, is there any questions? I mean, we are a mixed group, and we have the authors here, so I'm wondering if anybody had any questions. That's the teacher in me. No comment. I suppose just one further comment myself. Apart from being the chair of the National Advisory Committee on Alcohol, I'm actually chair of the Children's Research Network for Ireland in Northern Ireland, which is about 300 members. And we're having our annual conference tomorrow. And there's going to be about 150 people from children's services and researchers there tomorrow. So I just want to let you know I will be promoting this book. So on that note, I would like to officially launch your book, Adolescence and Substance Use, the Handbook to Professionals Working with Young People by Philip James, Trina Kearns, Anne Campbell and Bobby Smith. Well done.
To enjoy your evening, use the opportunities for collaborating and networking, and there's plenty of tea, coffee and snacks to have as well. If anybody would like to look at the rest of the building, they're also very welcome to that. Thank you. You read the acknowledgements of a book, you'll see people talk about how lonely writing is. And I have to say that this wasn't a lonely endeavour. we got a lot of help. externally and I suppose internally with each other. David Cooper is a Radcliffe author who really kind of gave us a lot of guidance and a lot of support in how to get going. Our colleagues are from other agencies. We actually did some research and asked people what would they like to see in this book. So people's ideas were working with young people fed into what the book actually ended up being. Radcliffe, especially Gillian Nineham, but all of the team have been really helpful, from proofing to design. They've been really good. I suppose our families and our friends with patience, they weren't golf widows, they were computer widows for the last 2 years. This was a special thanks to our family for their patience and their support. We'd like to thank Valerie and Croy again, and especially the young people who gave up their club for this evening for hosting the launch this evening. And to Catherine Cummins-Key from the NACD for coming out and giving that lovely speech and just being here with us today. And I suppose all of you for being here and celebrating with us. It has been over 2 years and it's lovely to be here together with our family, our friends and our colleagues to celebrate. So I think we'll leave it there to say thank you very much.
All these different things that are good things if they have more of these assets. So they're really, really good direction for parents and encourage them. The realistic thing is most people have somewhere between 75% of kids have somewhere between 11 and 30 of these assets. Very few people have 39 or 40 level. Only about 9% of kids have over 30. So most of us fall up in that and going into the summer. Okay? And to go back to our topic. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what is treatment, which just goes around what is treatment and what phrases like somebody's supposed to rehab and all that. So we're trying to demystify what substance abuse treatment is and talk about, things like detox from drugs and all those different types of ideas. And we talk a little bit about involving parents, because the more parents are involved in the treatment of violence and stuff like that, the more likely the success rate is. We talk a little bit about motivation interviewing, because the first thing you want to do is, if you're working with a young person, is you want them to want to change. And so therefore how you work with them is very important, and motivation interviewing is really helpful. We also have a little chapter on counselling, which is very, very important, because a lot of the work that we do really is sitting down and talking to young people, talking to your parents as well, but particularly talking to the young person to try and work on making these changes, which is always easy for them. We talk again about a lot of treatments. We also then talk about developing substance use policies, particularly in schools. Youth clubs need to have them. Lots of sporting agencies are developing substance use policies. We talk a little bit about the relationship between mental health and substance use. We talk a bit about sexual health and substance abuse. We talk a little bit about, I suppose, getting cultural diversity and all that, because obviously religious values and cultural backgrounds have a big impact on the attitudes towards substance use throughout the world. And we also then, I suppose, talk a bit about very important multidisciplinary working. As Jim said, the idea for this book came from the fact that we work with so many people from so many different organisations. The likes of Rowan and the youth working with services, but also sporting clubs. We also work with schools. We work with general hospitals and the AIM departments. So everybody, and parents. I mean, everybody, comes in contact with teenagers. So this is something that's really important for everybody. And finally, we talk a little bit about some of the ethical issues along with adolescent substance use. I can't read that without my glasses, so I'm not going to read it forward. So I'll come back to Trina.